Hi, everyone. This is Leslie, and you're listening to The Interview with Leslie Heaney. I am thrilled to welcome Jenna Bush Hager to today's podcast. I know you all know Jenna. She is the host of Today with Jenna and Friends, the fourth hour of NBC's morning program. She's also an author and the creator of the Read with Jenna Book Club. She has launched a publishing imprint called 1,000 Voices, which is a joint venture with Random House Publishing, where they're supporting emerging writers. She's also the founder of her own production company. Not really sure how Jenna sleeps. She does all of this while being a mother of three and wife and friend and citizen. In this episode, she and I sit down and we talk about her latest book, this third book that she co-authored with her twin sister, Barbara. This book is called I Loved You First, and it's sort of a meditation on the bond between parent and child. In the episode, Jen and I talk about why she and Barbara decided to write this book. We talk about the power of female friendships and sisterhood and what it's like to host the fourth hour of Today without her dear friend and former co-host, Hoda Kotb. We also talk about all the amazing work that Jenna is doing through her Read with Jenna Book Club and her 1,000 Voices collaboration. And we talk about all the people that she's had on that she's sort of speed dating with as her possible co-host for Jenna with Friends, among them Scarlett Johansson, who I guess they got their ears pierced on a recent episode. And last but certainly not least, we talk about our mutual love of karaoke. So I enjoyed every minute of my conversation with Jenna. She's absolutely delightful. And I think it's a conversation that you all will not want to miss. So with that, here's Jenna Bush Hager. Jenna, I'm so happy to see you.
Me too.
Thank you so much for coming on the pod.
I'm so happy to be here.
Tell me, so this is your third book with your sister Barbara. Mm-hmm. I Loved You First. I love the title. What inspired the two of you to write this story?
Well, yeah, we've been writing together now since 2016, and we started in the sister department because it's sort of what we know, you know.
You do sister, yeah, you do sister.
We market, corner of the sister market. I mean, I think we both are perfectly aware of how grateful and how lucky we were to have been born a twin, because it's a unique relationship, and we had each other. We moved a lot when we were little. We had, a pretty normal childhood, but we did have extraordinary circumstances,
yes.
Both when we were really young and then when we were in our, late 18, 19, 20, which is like such a unique time in your life, And so we've always known how lucky it was to have a partner so that we didn't have to walk into things alone. And so we started in the sisterhood department, and then I became a mom. Later, she's just become a mom. She just had her second baby. And, I think we've realized too, like this beautiful part of motherhood, this part of our life that it was something we didn't know before. And so this book is really one of those kind of like odes to moms. Like you'll read it to your new baby, it's like that moment where you see your child and like, I was the one that loved you first and I'll love you forever. There's all those books that I'm sure you read to your kids when they were really little that just sort of make you cry, like the one where the son like carries the mom at the ending. There's all those.
Oh, you mean like The Giving Tree? The Giving Tree,
which is like no, that's emotional. Not The Giving Tree. This is like the one that's like, my son, you will always be, or something. And then like, the mom's dying. I mean, it's whatever.
I'm getting verklempt just hearing you describe the plot line on that one.
This is all about how we can choose as parents to see the world through our kids' eyes, and like see the first seasons and see all these things that they find so beautiful and relive it, or we can choose to not pay attention. But we left out the not pay attention part.
I got a sneak peek.
Yeah.
Julia was kind enough to send me a sneak peek. And what I love so much about it is exactly what you're saying. It's sort of like as a parent, you're reliving or you're seeing all of these things through their eyes. You're kind of discovering the world through their eyes. And you talk about in the book kind of discovering the natural world, right? Through their eyes, whether it's looking at clouds or looking at the things that we sort of, when you become kind of a surly 20 something or 30 something before you have kids. And then you kind of are like, oh, wait, there's all this magic, around us that we don't always appreciate as much. But when you get to see it kind of with your child through their lens.
I think it's like, obviously as a parent, our job is to protect and to show and to lead and all the things that, we're supposed to do. But I think the surprise about parenting is how much we are led, we are shown, we are protected. It's so interesting. It's this like really beautiful relationship where we learn so much about ourselves and the world through our kids, if we allow. My kids are such optimists and so hilarious. And, it's like if I lean into that, I feel like my eyes are open to new things every single day.
Well, not to have you think that I'm a stalker, but I did notice on your Instagram that you were, I think, in Disney World last weekend. Talk about, seeing the world through your child's eyes. That was like a flashback. When I went to Disney with my, you kind of get back to, you remember it's a small world.
Totally. And and what's so interesting is like, even my daughter, my eldest, who's 11, like we went to Disney because my son had never been. He's almost, he's 5. So it was like, it was his turn. And my daughter is like, we have to go on Winnie the Pooh. Remember when we went on it? And it was like, you do it. Like I kept telling my husband, like, this is for the kids. Like Disney World is the most magical place, but it's magical because we're there with our children. It's like, you got to lean into all of that to make it magical. And we had the best trip. We really did.
It is, it's a great, I remember, I think when our daughter, who's now 19, was in her princess phase, and we did bring a babysitter with us. And I said to my husband, I'm like, do you want to go to Germany or France for dinner tonight? We were hitting Epcot. I think you can really,
totally.
You kind of relive it, and then you can find the, your own
drink around the world.
Sort of,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we definitely did. So this is the third book you've written with Barbara, right? And you've talked about you did the sister thing for a while. Tell sort of the moment that you both decided that you wanted to do this, or was it after she had her first child? And
well, for this book, we've sort of been on this, we've been working together. Like I would say the first book was sort of the catalyst of like a big decision maker. Like we should work together, because now it's fun. I think one of the things we love about it is we get to go on book tour together and spend a weekend, together. And, so now it's sort of like, what else do we have to say? Do we have space? But I think for our first book, we were meeting to talk about doing a Sisters First kids book. And it was the day after the 2016 election. We were in a room with a group of women. And I think, we probably had different political views. I'm sure, nobody was talking about that. But what we were talking about is sort of how women, no matter what political party we're in, it was on both sides, were discussed in that campaign was not something that would make me proud, to share with my children who were quite young then, And I think what we realized is like most women we know lift each other up, whether they're sisters or friends, I know you surround yourself, because I know many of them who I also surround myself with like strong, amazing women who are kind and devoted and would be the first to be there for you or to lift you up, to support you. And for whatever reason, in like the larger conversation, we didn't feel like that was part of the conversation. It's like sisterhood. What does it mean to have somebody's back? How do we want to talk about other women, And so we decided to write that. I feel like that was the big catalyst. Like, okay, if we can write a book of personal essays for adults based on our life. Yeah. Like now, we're like, what else do we have to say as moms, And I think we felt like the rhetoric was at such a stage. And sadly, I feel like we're still sort of there. But that like we had something to allow, our stories of having a sister that always supported me, through both normal times, but also extraordinary times, felt like it was relevant. So I think we try to think as we write each book, like what has not been said that we still can say, And so that was our big choice. I feel like now we go on book tours and somebody's like, you should write, the sister's first kids book. You should write, I don't have a sister, but my best friends are my sisters. So then we wrote Superpower Sisterhood. We always are sort of like, we're not going to write another book. And then on book tour, somebody says like,
I was going to say, you might get some ideas on your tour.
Yeah, I know. Well, right now, this is our last one planned for a bit.
I love that idea, though, of you all, thinking about things of kind of what the world needs now. And this is such a positive message, this book, as are your other two books as well. But I never knew that about your first book. And I think that's really a beautiful kind of mission of that book, right? Beyond just the sisters that you have that are your biological sisters, but all of the sort of the broader sisterhood and women kind of coming together to support each other, and how that didn't seem to be a dialogue that was happening.
And I think in most everybody's normal life, I think one reason why Barbara and I are particularly attuned to it is like, yes, we have each other, which is a specific type of relationship because twins is unusual. But also my mom was an only child and she only had like two cousins. Like she just was from a really small family. And so what she modeled to us and what she continues to model, was the importance of female friendship. Her sisters, and they're still her best friends to this day, they would go to a different national park every single year as a group, starting when they turned 40, which now feels like, I passed that date. But like those were her sisters. And so I think because it was modeled for us, I have such really strong female friends. It's really important to me. And so I think it's just something that we can easily talk about. And I think, one of the things that worries me a little bit about motherhood at this stage or parenthood or whatever is like, we're distracted, And I think people are shocked by my past. Like people, I think, assume that my parents weren't that active in our lives, but that was far from the truth. My dad didn't run for president until we were 18. So we were grown, 17, but like for the first 17 years of our life, both of our parents were really involved and super present because there wasn't the distraction that we all have in our hands all the time. Like it is like, and it's constant if we are all honest, we're all slightly distracted, because you're thinking like, oh my gosh, did I schedule that? Have I done this? And we have phones that are like, always right by us, When you said to me like, and it's like seeing all the natural world, when through your kids' eyes, it's like, that's what we should be doing. And if we're all honest, including myself, it's like sometimes you're walking down the street holding your kids' hands in New York City and you get a work email in. It's not all frivolous, but I guess the point is, I feel like COVID was a really hard time, obviously. And there were moments with my little kids where we would like lay in the grass and look at the stars, And it's like our lives are all so busy. And I feel like busier than when we were younger, or at least the way.
Oh, well, I think it's because people were accessible and they assume that we're available at any time because we have our phone here.
Exactly. I think like that's going to be, I didn't even think about that till today, but I think that's one thing that interests me is like, how can we all slow things down? And I think it's because like, I know that I need it. I feel like I'm, successful. I feel like my work life is super fulfilling. I feel like I'm doing all these things that I'm so interested in, but I also want that slowness with my kids, And it's like not a balance. I hate that word, but it's like it's something I'm interested in. I'm really interested in that.
Actually, in reading the book, I thought, gosh, I need to do more of that. And maybe I need to go down like the Colorado River on a whitewater rafting trip so that I can't.
Totally. And by the way, I did do that. When my mom and all of her best friends turned 40, the trip they picked was to raft down the Colorado River in the Grand Canyon. And then for their 60th, they invited their daughters. So we got to go on that trip and it was amazing. So yes, I feel like that's what we need to do. We got to get out of like cell phone range.
Yeah, 100%. I love that your mom does that.
I know.
I just got back from a girls' trip last week I went away with some friends, and mine usually involves rosé and sitting on a beach. But I like the, being out of range and having that be intentional.
Yeah. And maybe especially with our kids,
Yes.
it's like they want to feel our focus. And, it's like we obviously, I think one of the things, like obviously we live in a very polarized time, but I think one of the things that unites us, like every parent I have met, like adores their children. 99% of the parents want the best for their kids. And so it's like the fact that something as innocuous as a phone has sort of interrupted any of that connection, it bothers me because it's like, it feels like there should be something we can do about it, and it feels like there are people like Jonathan Haidt who are trying to.
Yes, 100%.
But anyway, I never thought about that side of it until now.
This episode is brought to you by the Scout Guide. Back in 2014, a very good friend of mine and mother of three, Susie Matheson, along with her business partner, Christy Ford, saw how big box stores and online shopping behemoths were suffocating their local businesses in Charlottesville, Virginia. And they wanted to find out a way to spotlight the amazing entrepreneurs in their community through a beautiful local guidebook. So from that, the Scout Guide was born. And the Scout Guide has gone on to build a network of over 90 women-owned franchises from coast to coast. These are franchises that are run by extraordinary women who are building their own businesses while supporting the small businesses in their local cities and towns. The Scout Guide is always looking, though, to expand their franchise family to find other women who are interested in building their own businesses. So if you're a woman who's looking to get back to work, but you want to have your own schedule, or you're ready for a career shift and you have some, let's say, marketing or sales experience, and you're interested in supporting your local stores and local businesses, the Scout Guide franchise is just the opportunity you're looking for. I happened to look at the 90 different locations the Scout Guide currently covers, and there are several locations that I know a lot of my listeners are from that are not covered. So there's a lot of great opportunities out there. And if you're interested in learning more about the Scout Guide, you can go to their website, franchise.thescoutguide.com, or you can email them at franchise@thescoutguide.com to find out more. And when you do, don't forget to mention the interview with Leslie Heaney. So you've had Read with Jenna since 2019, right? And
yes.
I am in awe of all that you do, by the way, because you have three children and you have like an incredible career and you have wonderful friends and you're so involved with so many different things. And I've often thought, I just was on this girls trip, so I brought a book. When I was thinking about you for today, I thought, when does she find time to read? The process of you selecting.
The process of me selecting, and like, you can't see this too close, but like, is this. Like, it's pages and pages and pages.
Yeah.
And pages of book, of entries. And it's for the book club, we have a whole team of readers, but like, I'm reading constantly. And there's a team of people that are reading constantly. And it definitely has taken for better or worse, like I get to read for work, which is such a privilege. It's my biggest joy. I definitely had a cocktail or two at a New Year's Eve, 50th / a lot of work peeps, and said to my boss, "You've stolen my favorite joy," But like, I definitely initiated all of Read with Jenna. It was something I believed in. It was something I pitched. It's something I fought for. And, we have this incredible team, but it's a ton of work, And so it is, I don't read the way I used to read, which is like back reading. Like, everybody was talking about all fours. I didn't read it when I came around for the book club.
I started to read it and I was like lying in bed next to my husband. I'm like, I almost feel like
embarrassed.
This is really, it was a spicy
very
read.
Spicy, very spicy.
Yes.
And it wouldn't have been, but I guess my point is I would have gone back and read something that everybody was talking about. I can only forward read at this point. So it's a lot. And I do have an app, which has been very helpful. Like, we've also just started an imprint with Penguin Random House, which is amazing and so fun. But now I'm reading for the book club. I'm reading for publishing our imprint. And then I also have a production company. So I read for production
for that
as well. Yeah.
Tell me about, so what is an imprint? Is that just a synopsis?
So we are working with Penguin Random House to publish emerging and debut talent. So I'm looking for new writers, and I'm like the publishers, Thousand Voices Books.
Amazing.
Which has been really fun. I'm obsessed with it because part of like what has frustrated me as a reader with the book club, and I think any reader can feel this no matter if you have a book club or not, is you'll read a book and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with this book. I'm obsessed with this book. And then you get to the ending or you get halfway and there's some part that you're like, this does not ring true for me. Or I felt this twist coming from a mile away or whatever it is. So to be in the publishing business sort of like early on as a voracious reader, I can be like, wait, you guys, this part I didn't love, or can we do some character work with these guys or whatever? Or I'm obsessed with this book. Like all I want to do is talk about it, you know? And so
that is so fascinating.
Really fun. So we have our first book, which publishes next October. But we have acquired 7 books and all of the writers minus one are debut.
That's so exciting.
I
Jenna.
know. And they range from like a 26-year-old writer to a 61-year-old debut writer, which I'm so crazy about.
Oh, and so you're probably getting, and you probably won't know this off the top of your head, but like thousands of either inquiries or treatments or...
I mean, we definitely are, but also...
You have people who are kind of helping you manage that?
Definitely. And we have a very specific lens. You know, I think people kind of know my taste after running a book club for 6 years. And we've worked with agents over the last 6 years. You know, we have great relationships with them. So I think like they're only going to send me things they think would be really special and that we would be into.
I forgot about that piece of the puzzle. Yeah. Being able to have agents who kind of know. For those authors and those books that you choose, it's a game changer for them, whether they're established authors or not. That must feel so wonderful as a lover of books and a promoter of people to see kind of the impact that your selections have on those authors and on those books.
Totally. I mean, I have letters that are like pinned up on my, around my desk, and I need to find where the rest of them are. But like, yeah, it means a lot because I do also love the work, And so I feel like if I can be a spotlight for others, who, and it's hard. I'm sure many know to get published. It's hard to break out. The market is saturated. So to be able to highlight somebody's work who, some of these authors that I've worked with have worked on their books for years. The book that we just highlighted, which is called This Is a Love Story, I'm obsessed with it. You should read it. It's beautiful. It's by a writer named Jessica Sofer. I mean, she worked on it for a really, really long time.
Is that her first book, or is this her
second
first?
Book. Her first book was published, I think, in 2016, and it was quiet. So, and sometimes second books are even harder, because your first book doesn't sell a ton, it can be hard. But she hit the New York Times bestseller list last Wednesday, which is amazing. And I think she'd been working on the book for years, like maybe since 2018 or 19, and so it just feels so great to be able to highlight. And I loved this book. Like, it's the type of thing that if I was with a friend, I'd be like, you need to read this book.
Yes.
So that's what we're doing.
And how did you, besides you and Barbara, acknowledging that you had this kind of unique experience as twins, and obviously a very unique experience with your upbringing, as we talked about earlier, did you always want to write? I mean, was that something that you were an English major, I think? Was that always a passion of yours? Was it of Barbara's? And then you just thought, let's take this step and try to do it? It was always a passion
of mine. I mean, Barbara was like, and it was so lucky that we had parents that didn't compare us, because twins are often compared. I mean, children in general, like friends of mine are like, God, my mom always compared or whatever. My parents did not. And I know it was an intentional action. And Barbara and I were very different. And she was like, she won like the state math competition. I'm not kidding. She was such, she missed like one math problem on her math SAT. She just was so, and by the way, she's a great reader and a great writer too. But I think because I wasn't a serious academic and I had a sister that was, I had a teacher in I think 5th or 6th grade in Dallas, Texas. Her name was Mrs. Cunningham. Like, I'll never forget her because I wasn't acknowledged that much for academics. It just wasn't my thing, you know?
I mean, you're my sister from another mister, Jenna. I was at a similar
I just didn't have a teacher that was like, wow, you really are killing it, you know?
Yeah.
Not much of that. Like, I was the personality, you know? And so, but I did have a teacher in 5th grade, I think, named Miss Cunningham, who I loved. She was Scottish. And she said, you're a really good writer. And I was kind of shocked by it. And she said, keep reading, you know, in order. And it's such good advice for young people who want to write. It's like the more you read, the more you can understand plot and characterization and all of that. So, but yeah, I think like, and it also shows you that a teacher's words really matter.
I was just going to say that, how impactful, like, and it only takes one teacher and one moment. And probably from that point on, you felt like, oh, I want to pursue this more because I am good at it and I enjoy it.
You know, when you're young, nothing's that like black and white. You're just like, oh, somebody sees something in me. But then it's like, I was on the school newspaper. Those were the things I leaned into. And I'm sure I leaned in to that. I always did AP English. I was an English major. I took creative writing classes. I went to Oxford my junior year. I went to a big public high school, but I went and studied creative writing and English literature at Oxford one summer. And I was like the only kid from Austin, Texas that was there. It was like a bunch of LA kids. And, you know, I mean,
that's awesome.
One of the reporters here at NBC News was there and he called me Iowa because I was from Austin. Like, because everybody else was like from Brentwood, California.
Yeah, exactly. You know? From LA or New York or something.
Actually, you're all going to move to Austin in 20 years, you know? So yeah, totally. I mean, it shows you, and it is what I was into. Like, I did love to read, but I think her words totally shifted how I felt about myself, what I was interested in. And it is interesting that both positive and negative affirmations from teachers can totally change our lives.
I want to switch gears just a second to talk about Hoda. So since January, you've been having guest hosts with you. It's sort of like speed dating. I'm sure that has exciting elements to it, but it's got to, you know, you must miss having your wing lady there with you.
Yeah. I mean, I totally do. I mean, when she told us her office was like right down the hall from my office, which I'm in right now. And when she called me in, I made like a guttural sound, like a no, but like because it was shocking and I was surprised. And I think it was kind of amazing because we knew for a period of time. So we had like 3 months together. We went to Austin. We got to kind of say goodbye. She hates goodbyes. Like when we would go to parties or bars or whatever, she would always drive off before.
She did a French leave or French accent. We
called them the Houdini. Like it had its own name because it was such an intense. You've never seen anything like it. Like we'd be like, "Where's Hoda?" before we even like put one foot into the bar. So she didn't love to say goodbye. I mean, I think it was a really interesting lesson and sort of a beautiful goodbye. Like she got to sit in the glow of how beloved she was. I got to tell her what it felt like to work with her. She got to say the same to me. She got to do it on, across the board. She got to hear from all these people. And I will say, like, I'm so proud so I miss her terribly. Yeah. We've had drinks. So it's like, it's not like I'm not going to see her again. We're still friends. I still talk to her a lot. But I will say, like, I think what's amazing is like the show has gone on, and it's like, I miss her. And it isn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. Because, I mean, maybe it's because we've had the long, beautiful goodbye. Maybe it is because I've been at NBC for 15 years, hosting the show for 6. And I have such an amazing group of colleagues. Like, I love everybody that I work with. And I know them so well at this point. And so I don't know. I mean, I'm a little bit embarrassed with how sad I was. I mean, I called my parents to say that Hoda was...
I cried. I know. Yeah. So what did your parents say when you told
my dad was like, it's going to be like, I think he thought like, because I was weeping, this was like the day of, and I had a long day at work. So it was like, I was calling him, at night on my drive home, and I wake up at 4:50 in the morning. So like after a long day, it was like, I think he thought like a child was sick. He thought it was something really irreversible and horrible. And obviously her leaving wasn't able to be reversed, and it was horrible, but it wasn't, life or death. And so he was like, Jenna, it's going to be okay. Like, you're going to be okay. And the truth is he was right, and I think part of that is how great our team is. And part of that is that like, we really got to celebrate her and say goodbye in a really profound way that we're all proud of. So it felt like a really strong, like it's a case for a beautiful goodbye in any relationship. It's, with kids, I feel like it's taught me a lot about sort of life in a weird way. And it's made me sort of clear on a lot of different things. Like, I mean, it's nothing I would have chosen, and it's okay. I'm tired but it's all working out, for now.
That is a really good point. Like those things that are unknown and are scary and you don't want the change, and you've gone through the change, and not that change, not the change, but a professional change.
That's coming too. That's knocking on my door.
Yeah. Please, when you get there, I will walk you through. It's quite a situation. But I think it must be exciting too. Like the week that you had, all the SNL ladies on. I mean,
and
that's just
so
like
many fun things coming up. Like it's wild to me. I mean, all the SNL ladies were amazing. Scarlett Johansson hosted the show for a week. We got matching
she's so great. Oh, yes.
Oh, wait, no, that's the wrong one. And that shows you how many I have, which is kind of hilarious.
Did you do that on the air? I missed that. But wow.
She has her own piercer. Who would know?
Oh, stop it. Stop it.
But like, yeah, and I think it speaks to our show and sort of any of my fears of like, are we
Well, it actually also speaks to you, Jenna. I mean, I don't think there's very few people who could make that transition and have the show be as just, I mean, people, love watching you and hearing what you have to say, and the dynamics that you are, just the way that you are able to connect so well with people. But I think it's so fun. As you said, you've got great stuff coming up, right?
It's fun. We have really fun people coming up. And like, when does this air? I feel like I can tell you one or two, but like we have comedians, we have sport people, we have other broadcasters, we have other actors and actresses whom, like Scarlett Johansson, like she'd never hosted morning television before. And like everybody fell madly in love with her. Because they didn't know that side of her, like Amy Poehler, it was such a blast to be with her and have that day, so we have a lot more of that, which is really, really fun. And
she's kind of so awesome. Did you see her on the 50th anniversary show?
Yeah. I mean, by the way, I was invited to go to that concert, but I couldn't go because I was in Disney. That just says a lot about where the priorities are.
I was going to say, you put them first. And you pointed out all the characters. I saw her with, so Tina Fey. I know Tina Fey a little bit because her daughter was in my daughter's class for 3 years. And I have a karaoke problem, which I think you know a little bit because you and I have done some performing at a birthday party. Yes. But Tina and I did do a karaoke duet, which I have talked about before on the podcast. So seeing her with Amy, I never met Amy Poehler, but I'm so obsessed with Tina that I hope that, one day Amy and I can cross paths. She just seems hilarious.
Karaoke together.
Yes, that's what I am hoping. All right.
And so actually karaoke again. I was telling you how I have a friend who used to live in Nashville, Holly Williams, whose grandfather was, Hank Williams Jr., whose father, Hank Williams. She's a musician. She's a beautiful musician. And we were just on this girls' weekend, but like, for a sisters themed weekend. And she came to perform in this place in Tennessee. And she came to perform her actual music because she is a musician. But like we were sitting next to each other at dinner and I'm like, Holly, I want to come on and sing Islands in the Stream with you. And then we started singing like Kid Rock, which he can be a polarizing fellow, but nobody can say they don't like Kid Rock. What Sheryl Crow duet. Remember I got that picture of you from the 90s?
Yes.
I mean, you may not, and that's okay if you don't.
I mean, I love, when I did karaoke with Tina that night. And, I know I'm just, as I'm talking about it, you can feel the stalker vibe, I'm sure, coming through the screen. But she said to me, are we going to do a duet or what? And we did Endless Love. And she was Lionel and I was, and my husband was like, I've never seen something more disturbing in my whole life. He's like, what do you mean? I said, what do you mean? That was so great. We had so much fun. He's like, I was staring. Anyway, I really took it to the next level.
That's exactly what I did.
You did that with Holly Williams.
And Holly was like, yes. At some point I'm like, you are the musician and I should let you go, and continue to sing on your own without me,
All right. So I know you have an action-packed day today, so I'm mindful of our time. But you mentioned production stuff. What's next? What's next for you besides maybe a trip to a national park with the kids this summer?
Well, that's what's really next. In my summer vacation. I think where our focus really is right now is the imprint, which has been so much fun.
Yes.
And we have hopefully some projects that you'll see on television at some point. It's slow. I have to say it's slow. I have a fast-paced news. It's a different show every day.
I know.
What's taking so long? But there should be something in that vein soon enough.
Well, I can't wait to see what's next. Thanks again. Okay, bye-bye. That brings us to the end of this episode of The Interview. A huge thank you to Jenna Bush Hager for joining. And as always, thank you all so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate or review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Wherever you get your podcasts, we release a new podcast every Wednesday. And until next Wednesday, this is Leslie, and thank you for joining The Interview.